Right now, to welcome to the program, Mr. David Adams, Legislative Affairs Director for the Virginia Shooting Sports Association. Dave, how you doing, sir?
I'm great, Cam. How about you?
I am excellent. I appreciate you coming on the program. And one of our senators, Senator Tim Kaine, on the commemoration of the murders at Virginia Tech, according to PolitiFact Virginia, Senator Kaine wheeled out a rather tired old anti-gun cliche here in calling for more gun control laws, claimed that 40%, Dave, of background checks in this country, or 40% of gun sales, rather, take place without a background check.
Yeah, you would think that he would have known that the Washington Post had already given his good friend, President Obama, 3 Pinocchios for using that same tired talking point over a year ago.
One would think that Senator Kaine would have recognized that, picked up on it, but apparently not. Now, so here's the thing: this statistic that gets cited, it comes from a 1997 study of a 1994 survey of gun owners, right?
Right.
But there's a problem here because in '94, when the survey was conducted, the law had recently changed to require background checks for gun sales. But this period of time, the survey went back something like 3 years, asking people, was a background check conducted when you purchased your firearm? There may have been many, many cases where no background check was performed because that was not the law at the time.
Yeah, and that's not the only problem with the survey. It was a small sample, I think about 250 people, which most pollsters will tell you is not a very good survey number to get an accurate count of whatever it is they're studying. And a lot of the people that they surveyed said they probably did or probably not, but weren't sure.
Absolutely. And what's fascinating here, Dave, is that this is all based on a now 21-year-old survey of gun owners. And PolitiFact Virginia, in debunking this statistic, then I think engages in a little bit of hyperbole of their own. They say that, part of the problem is that there just hasn't been a lot of research on this over the past 2 decades. There is nothing, and I mean nothing, stopping an anti-gun billionaire like Michael Bloomberg from saying, you know what, let's try to replicate this study and see what it says today. Except that they wouldn't get that 40% figure. And they like that really big number. They want people to think that most gun sales or a lot of gun sales are taking place in this country in this sort of, black market gray area where people aren't paying attention to who they're selling their firearm to.
That's exactly right. And, they went back and looked at some of the things in that 1994 survey and kind of extrapolated it out. Some folks, I think one of them was a Duke University researcher and the other gentleman from the University of Chicago. And when they extrapolated it out and pulled out some of the things that made that not so accurate, they actually came up with a number closer to 14 to 22%.
Which is, 14 to 22% of those, because they say part of that 40% figure would have been people who were getting firearms as gifts, things of that nature.
Yep.
14% is a lot lower than 40. Now, again, what's kind of fascinating is this PolitiFact Virginia story quotes a criminal justice professor as saying, that 40% figure still sounds about right to me. When these study authors say, well, we're really talking about 14 to 22%, you still have supporters who I think are clinging so bitterly, perhaps, to that figure because, again, it's not about real knowledge. It's not about what the actual number is. It's about as scary a number as they can come up with.
Yeah, that point that you just mentioned, I was taken aback by it. I actually saw the PolitiFact article ran earlier last week. The Times-Dispatch just picked it up today. But I was amazing that after all that information that PolitiFact put out there, and you have this one guy who says, but the 40% number still looks good to me.
Right. Why? Why does it still look good to you? I mean, you have the study's author saying that that number shouldn't look good to you. You have any number of folks who have pointed this out saying that number should not look good to you. But I guess, again, if you really want to criminalize the private transfer of firearms, then 40% is going to look a lot better than maybe a more accurate number closer to 10%.
Unfortunately, the people that are voting on those types of issues are getting better information than what the anti-gun folks are putting out there.
Well, you say that, but I mean, one of the anti-gun folks putting this out there is a voting member of the U.S. Senate. I think this is one of those little, I don't want to call them factoids. This is one of those talking points from the gun control advocates. Really, again, it's been around for over 2 decades. I don't know if it's going to go away anytime soon because they really like using that figure. But every gun owner, I think, needs to know where that figure comes from so that they can then respond and say, really, do you know what you're talking about here?
Absolutely. And, John Lott's done a great job debunking that. And he was actually one of the folks that the Washington Post talked to, their fact checker talked to back in 2013 when they were doing the fact check on President Obama's use of that talking point. So the Crime Prevention Research Center that Dr. Lott runs has a lot of good information on that, and there's a lot of other sources. I mean, your show is one of the ones that folks can get information from, and gun owners just need to keep reminding their legislators, hey, look, that 40% number is not true, and here's why.
Absolutely. And, again, I'm just saying if Michael Bloomberg, maybe wanted to spend some money trying to replicate this study as opposed to trying to get people to quit shopping at grocery stores that still allow us to exercise our Second Amendment rights. I'm just saying it's an option. It's an option.
Yeah, apparently the gun ban folks would rather take your money and my money as taxpayers to do research than to ask Mr. Bloomberg to do that type of research because apparently they figure they're not going to get the answer they want, so he's not going to put his money out there to do that.
Apparently so. Dave, listen, thank you so much, sir, for coming on the program. It's good talking with you again.
Thanks, Cam, for the invitation.
You bet. Dave Adams, Legislative Affairs Director for the Virginia Shooting Sports Association.